Rise and shine, roommates. It's your girl, Lasacia Turner. I'm here to speak about a different conversation. It's not our regular conversations that we have about change, but it's a conversation that is a compare and contrast about a movie compared to reality events. This conversation came about when a good friend of mine claimed that we should speak about sharks when it came to listeners' playlist at the end of the month. With that type of comment, it came very comical to people, and they suggested that I should actually speak about sharks. So, after calling Murphy,
hey, how's it going?
He suggested that I should compare the movie Jaws, 1975 version, Jaws 1, compared to modern day events that goes on now. So, before we start into my compare and my contrast that I made about the movie, you tell me your memories about the movie. And we're talking about number one, 1975.
Just to start off real young, that's the first movie where you realize that a film or anything that's art can really affect people, because everybody when they were kids saw that and they stopped going in the water. That's when you first kind of learn about propaganda too, because I got something to say.
I hear it.
Yeah, a fun fact that after that movie was made, more people went hunting after sharks than ever before. There was a mass killing of sharks, or there's some species that were going endangered. It was probably the most successful horror movie ever because of the effect that it had on people.
As I make a compare and contrast, you're basically saying that media is an influence of people's everyday lives.
Oh yeah, and I was saying to somebody else, we're part of a 9/11 generation. The market was saturated with a lot of racial things, a lot of controversial, a lot of very racist things 20 years ago. And I feel it's coming more of a head now when a lot of those kids have grown up.
So we're going to jump into the movie because I feel you got some good points. So I definitely want to bring that into the open conversation so it won't be we're having a repetitive interview. We're going to jump into the characters because going to school for media communications, I know that's the most important thing when it comes to a story, a storyline, or even a movie. And this little assignment or this little challenge you gave me was actually fun because I took 2 classes doing this where you watch movies and you compare it to questions and you make, compare and contrast. I came up with 4 characters or 4, groups, which is the shark, the mayor, the people, and the chief. And then I also made the water a symbolic thing of
mystery type,
symbolic. I don't want to say a symbolic figure, but I guess a symbolic figure of the movie. And then I'll explain
why. Corona. Yeah, a little bit. That's kind of touched upon too a little bit.
So sharks, I would say, after watching the movie, and represent to me racist and racism because they're out there killing people. Okay. The mayor I look at as a supremacist because he believes that it's okay because it doesn't affect him.
True.
Okay. The people I believe are the ignorance and the police because
blind supporters and all that.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and the chief, I look at as the government and the president because he understood what was going on. He was the first one to be called when the first female died, and he knew. But then he decided to keep it a secret, would cause another person to be attacked and died. And then after the little boy had died, the mother had found out previously that somebody had already died from the shark. So now he just made collateral damage, which the government does by... or even the president by commenting on when it comes to police brutality, I'm sorry to say when he takes the police side saying it was self-defense. So that's where my comparisons come from. Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, honestly, we're friends. We agree on a lot of these topics.
Oh, wait, I was not to cut you off. The water is society. The water is society because,
We live in a society? No, it's a joke. What are you saying?
I don't even know what you just said.
Oh, I said we live in a society. It's an internet meme.
I don't know. I just feel water is society because I feel once you walk out your house, it's you're walking into society, which right now society is danger to some people. So once you walk into the water, it's dangerous to you. You get it?
No, 100%. Because you could call the cops the ocean. You could call the sharks are the racists. I don't remember the guy's name, but there's a video of what happened 2 days ago with the kid in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
The
17-year-old.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about, and I don't care to remember his name.
We don't have to go too much into it because it is a morbid subject for a lot of people, and it really shows tension and how people the longer it goes on, the worse it's gonna get.
Right.
Yeah.
When it comes to reality versus the movie, I believe that in the movie it all it starts out with just a modern day family like us, meaning that police brutality goes on like every few months, which it should never go on, but it just brings up an uproar every few months, which I put in my notes like a modern day family like us. We live in as a modern day family, and then something such as a shark comes and destroys our natural flow, as you can say, such as like when it comes to protesting and the racism and people coming and attack our livelihoods. So that's where I got from the first scene.
And honestly, I'm still kind of stuck on how you looked at as the sheriff too, the chief. Like, I'm still kind of stuck back on that subject because I didn't think about it that way. In a way, he is kind of one of the main bad guys in the movie because he goes along with it. He agrees with it. He's a supporter. He's an ally to that cause. Like, you know what I mean? They keep the beach open so they can make their money.
Right.
And hell, that you could even bring that back a couple hundred years ago, and it would still be relevant to a different story. Yeah.
Facts. And what you said about them closing down the beach and how the mayor thought that it would be a bad idea simply because of tourists and 4th of July was coming up. That's just like defunding the police right now. They don't want to defund the police because they feel like it will bring more violence to cities, and it will bring less protection to certain people.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so like people do understand, I always feel like when somebody brings up defunding the police, it is because of the over budget that they have. Like, I've worked at a lot of places where I've seen tons of crazy SWAT gear and all that for like security purposes, like big stadiums and all that. MetLife has 2 tanks. Like, they don't have guns on them, but they're actual humongous. Are you
supposed to be saying this?
Oh yeah. They're like you've seen them in public. You know what I mean? Like they've been at events and all that.
Right.
And you know what? Actually, you want to know what event they bring them out at?
Where?
Summer Jam. Yeah, that's.
Do you know why?
Oh, I know exactly why. The guards, the security, the police, everybody comes in there with a certain type of attitude. And that is something that we should face now. Like, it's the fact that you notice that like the mayor and the chief always talk privately when they would talk about these things.
Right.
That is racism. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not when they're making public statements. It is when they're making public statements and it is all that stuff. But the worst part of it is the stuff behind the curtains.
Right.
Because that's tomorrow's decisions were already made today. You know what I mean?
Okay.
No, you put yourself in those places, and like I believe it's Zen. They say they say that you bring with you wherever you came.
And when you start speaking about like the police and the chief coming together, when it comes to the movie, to Jaws that I was watching, there is this character by the name of Matt Hopper, right? And I made a connection with him.
Right?
Yep, from the Institute. Okay. Now I made a connection that him in the movie, that character is connected to activists in reality because he sits there and he wants the why, when, what, how, and what happened. Because when they caught the first shark and the first shark was dead and they pronounced that this is the shark that was doing the killing, he proclaimed that they need to cut the shark open to know that the bodies were still in there. So to me, that's an activist, because you got activists coming out here demanding justice for certain murders, for certain brutalities, for certain actions that's happening, such as he is asking for in the movie.
That guy was cool too, man. He was on the scene. He was ready for anything. Actually, no. Also, look at him too. Not just to like glorify characters in a movie, but look at that character. That character thrived for education. He was interested in travel. Obviously, the fact that he would go out of his way just to make sure that something can be set right.
Right.
He does play a role, and like I do feel like he is the representation of activism, but activist
or activism.
Yeah. But also the fact that like, what were people always saying in all the marches? Like at the end of them, they weren't telling people to riot. No, they were telling people to come back and vote.
Right.
When they can, because everybody can be a part of the government, and the more of the people that are like us, that are part of the government with our views and all that, the more we can even change. It really is.
And this is not about the movie, but I definitely agree with you, because like I was just thinking the other day, like people don't understand, like we're stronger than the government together than apart, and people don't understand that because they can't make moves without us.
Yeah.
And people are so caught up believing that like just because they provide certain people with things such as like financial aid or other people with food stamps or like even like governmental business, they feel like that the government controls everything. And I feel like if everybody look at the big facts instead of looking at the small facts, I feel like a lot of change can happen a little bit faster, because like I said, we have more control of the government than they have control over us because we're living, they're just working. Just a little, I don't feel like these are like major points, but I just like, they're literally like little comparisons. But like I said, like this is like a fun thing for me to do weirdly because like I go to school for it. I don't know. And I end up loving it after like my first class of cinematics. But anyway, the little comparison I made was like no swimming equals curfew that we have.
Okay.
Another comparison is when the shark breaks the dock, and like as I said, the shark represents racism. So basically, this like the more you antagonize it, the worse it gets, and the stronger, like the stronger it gets. Like I feel like
all the guys getting with dynamite and all that,
because like I can completely say like everything that Black people do now, probably I feel like back then they did it all right, but when it comes to protesting now and being an activist, I feel like in some ways you can do it, and some things they shouldn't be doing. Like for example, like looting. I would never agree with it because at the end of the day, like everybody is not a part of the bad. So like you are breaking and vandalizing other people's things that you don't know how hard they worked for, where they came from to get it. So imagine like Jersey decides to start looting and stuff like that. We are damaging people's hard work earned money that they came to this country to build. Like people don't know what empires they're ruining. So like that's what I meant. Like the more people antagonize somebody, the more it gets, the worse it gets.
That's kind of interesting too. I was thinking about newer immigrants that have like come here in the past couple of years who have, bought shops, started to like chase after their American dream. You're almost kind of curious how what type of position they're now in and how they feel about a lot of these things. Honestly, like the idea of the American dream, does that even exist anymore?
Right.
What I'm asking.
And I don't believe so because like my dream is like I always tell my mom like I want to move to Canada. Like I'd rather move somewhere out of the United States because although everywhere is conflict, I feel like it's more arisen here, and it's just like it's annoying. And like as a Black woman, like I don't feel like I face fears every day, but when I go into certain towns, certain stores, like I do feel like a sense that either somebody's watching me or judging me simply because of my skin. Like I can be like dressed down like a businesswoman. I feel like somebody's still judging me just because of my skin. So that's why I kind of agree with that. But I feel like America has like heightened.
Oh, actually, yeah. Imagine you just built a whole studio, so you spent a lot of time in Home Depot recently, didn't you? And how many men talk down to you while you're buying stuff in Home Depot?
None, actually.
Really?
No, they were actually very helpful. Well, a lot of times for my carpet and stuff like that, I went with a guy friend. But for like my paint and literally just my paint and my spray paint, like they asked me what I was doing with it. Like just like every time I came, they asked me what I was doing and things like that, just so they know I'm getting the right paint thing. And they congratulated me. Some people were so nice. I actually gave them tips because I was like I never seen somebody like so friendly like this working. Because some people have attitudes, and it wasn't Home Depot, it was Lowe's. Because Home Depot people really do be having attitudes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I got my carpet and stuff from them, and that sheetrock actually that I called you about like a while ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The guy from Home Depot gave me that for free. So actually, letting people know what I'm doing, I really haven't got any downplay about it.
Okay. Getting back to Jaws in the ocean and the water and everything. If that mayor cared a lot more about those people in that town, 2 more people wouldn't have died from that shark.
Right.
Like compassion is a big element, and I feel like compassion should be more in the government. More compassion, less money.
I just want to thank you for giving me the idea because although it was just a little bit of facts about Jaws, and at the end of the day, this has nothing to do with my podcast. It became a part of my podcast, which I absolutely enjoy.
Really fun too.
Yeah, we definitely poured out a good amount of information when it came to compare and contrast and giving our thoughts on it because when it comes to our generation, I learned that a lot of us share a lot of thoughts just in different ways. So we're just going to jump into the open conversation. I know it's just like a little burner for you.
A little burner?
Yeah.
It's a roast.
But, we're just going to have a little conversation about it. Our open conversation is a process of handling an injustice situation. So I got the open conversation idea simply out of the movie Jaws because I feel like they didn't handle a situation well, which became injustice. So what do you think? I think I guess I'll start first simply because it was kind of shaky for you. You didn't kind of want to talk about it, which is totally fine, and I believe it's understandable.
Wait, which part? The subject itself?
The open conversation. You was like, oh, this is kind of hard.
Oh no, it's just because like I'm not I was never a cop, but like I was a bouncer, and I was a bouncer in some bad situations, and but like there was never a situation where like uh, I feel like it to be honest, it kind of shows how scared they are.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Who is
like
they?
what?
Who are they?
I'm talking about cops.
Okay.
Like, I feel like the fact of all this stuff happening right now, I feel like there's a combination of things. Like,
but what do you believe is the process of handling it? I absolutely believe that there is one type of style that protesters have used, which is a silent protest. I believe that is very effective because it just.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
I believe energy is a big movement. I believe if like you get, as long as you feel the energy, I feel like it definitely creates at least a thought pattern for somebody, like letting them know like they're not going home. They're gonna be like, even being silent can become intimidating. You don't have to admit it, but you just staring at somebody can make it be like, what the like, what are they looking at? Like, you know? So that's one process I believe in handling. Another process I believe in is just like it's hard to say because I can't believe people just can't do it, but like just be humane, like meaning like just be honest, tell the truth. You made a mistake.
Don't shoot people.
Right. Like at the end of the day, like you made a mistake that it's gonna affect your life. No matter if that cop goes to jail or if it's not, you have children and family that's now have their jobs affected.
Oh yeah.
Now have their school, like their education affected. Like all you have to do is just be honest of the crime that you did.
Oh yeah.
And handle it out as a quote unquote man, because at the end of the day, like when you decided to become a cop, you thought or you believed that you had anticipation to be a man, so you need to follow through with it. So that's what I believe the process is. You
hold people accountable. Yeah, honestly, there's a shield for them. There's a shield, and honestly, I do feel like us knowing this stuff, us more witnessing it, like every time anything happens, the more that we talk about it, the more we communicate about it. That like hashtag Breonna Taylor, that is like the left hand of it. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I don't know what you mean, because I would rather say the right hand.
So okay, wait. I was going to get there.
Left hand
the other, yeah, like we have to keep these topics fresh.
Okay.
Your police's bosses.
Right.
Like you're getting into the position where you could be in charge of like, you know what I mean? Like we could tear down the shield from the inside.
Yeah.
Like
hey, people, like it's just like you can like. Basically put it like this, you can vote somebody out.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take a lot of work, and people don't understand that, because I feel like people are, if you're not educated into politics, and that's why I hate politics, because I feel like you have to be educated. If you're not educated in that, I feel like you really don't know a lot. With that being said, I'm going to announce a change challenge. The change challenge this week is to think twice. Easy. Just think twice before you speak, before you make an action that can hurt somebody's feelings, or even alter somebody's day, or change somebody's thought on the way what they believe. Like I said, just think twice. You may say thinking twice is something small, or it's not that important, but it is important, because as we know, a lot of things that can be said can affect somebody's daily mood, and sad to say, somebody's life or the way that they live or their well-being. Until next time, guys, thank you, Murphy, for coming through in my room only, and I'll catch you guys next week.